Hey, what's going on, guys? I just wanted to do this video focusing on my experience with this horrific drug called crystal meth. And I just want to give a bit of a preface before I get into my experience, my testimony with it. I am by no means trying to glorify my time in doing this drug, and I definitely do not want this video to be any sort of like an encouragement to try it out, or for those of you that might come across this video that are thinking about trying crystal meth. This video is simply for the purpose of trying to show the reality of what crystal meth is and how God basically delivered me from it. And so it's a horrible drug. There's so many people that I know that have their lives messed up and just completely destroyed because of this drug. And so many testimonies, so many people's lives that have been utterly decimated because of this drug. And I'm sure most of you have heard of people or even know people that have destroyed their lives on this drug. I even have lasting residual effects, negative impact on my body because of this drug. I have like loose teeth. Sometimes my heart palpitates because of what I did, in terms of using this drug. So just wanted to put that out there and then get into my story. When I was about 16 years old, I was sophomore summer. It was summertime going into junior year in high school. And I was pretty heavy stoner, smoking bud every day. And, one of my friends ended up talking about another kind of drug while we were smoking bud, getting high. And he described this drug that I had really never heard of in this way. He said that if you try this drug, it's going to make you feel like Superman. And at that time, I was just really open to trying whatever. I wanted to party, I wanted to get high, and I want to get my hands on any kind of drug just so that I could experience the euphoria and try and be all tough, like, yeah, I'm a druggie and I do different drugs. I mean, this is just what was going through my mind at that time in my life. And so not too long after, a couple of other friends that were in my circle ended up trying the drug, and I was invited to try it out. And I remember when I first tried it, I didn't really feel anything. The only thing that sort of changed my altered my mind was the fact that I just stayed up. Like I just couldn't go to sleep. So there was no like euphoric sensation or anything. It wasn't like smoking weed. It was just I stayed up, and I was just like, well, whatever. This is what it is. Okay. And I ended up trying it again. And then the second time, that's when I was definitely impacted. It felt like there was just this a floodgate of that opened up of adrenaline into my body, and I felt this rush of energy, and I just felt like I could do anything. And I think that's the feeling that hooks people. And so immediately after that, I was hooked. Like I wanted to do this drug, and I noticed that as I continued to do this drug, all kinds of things that I used to live for, that I was ambitious for, doing and completing in my life, started taking like the back seat, basically. Like everything that I used to love was secondary now to using this drug. And so I just want to kind of give some experiences, some like distinguishable experiences with regards to using this drug. I remember there was this one time where I was I was high on meth, and I was hanging out with my friends, and I ended up choosing to mix drugs. Right, I chose to smoke weed along with my meth high, and I don't think that that's something that's totally abnormal. I think people do that all the time, but this night in particular was very strange because I was really high on meth, and I went outside to go smoke some stress weed with my friends, and for some reason, the mixture just completely dazed me, and I literally, after smoking the weed, I had to go to a friend's house, which was up the street from where I was, and it was nighttime. And I literally, it felt like everything was just warped and weird. And I ended up going to my friend's house and knocking on their window to try and get a hold of them so that I could get more drugs, I think. And it turns out that I was at a completely different house. For almost like a few seconds, I was like, where the heck am I? And so this is the effect that these drugs could potentially have on someone, and you could see why someone could go nuts, or someone could make some sort of dangerous mistake. This drug, as I continued to use it, began to consume me. It began to really impact my health negatively. I began to have heart murmurs and palpitations. I noticed that staying up for days on end, my body started to bruise, and my face was starting to wear down because of the sleep deprivation. I noticed that my teeth were starting to get loose because I was smoking meth, and there's so many chemicals, just horrible chemicals that are contained within this drug. And when you smoke, the smoke actually hits your teeth through the pipe, and you're inhaling it, and your teeth are the first thing that the smoke impacts in your mouth. And so it started to do that to me. I started to get like bruising on my skin, like my arms, and it was just a really, really bad thing that was developing in my life. I'm gonna skip ahead. I want to mention how I was able to get off of it, but I want to skip ahead to this particular experience because I think it was pretty interesting. I remember once I had quit smoking meth, there was one day that I got really drunk. It was my birthday. My friend bought me I think he stole it, this bottle of it's like 35%, 70 proof alcohol bottle. And he was like, drink it, man. It's your birthday. This is yours. And I started just chugging that thing, man. And I drank a lot of that bottle, if not almost all of it. And I got so drunk that I blacked out. And, my friends had to take me to my friend's room, and I just passed out there. And I woke up super late, and it was a school night, and I didn't go home. My mom didn't know where I was. And so I woke up, and it was really, really late, and I ended up going to a friend's house once I was coming to, like I noticed that I was still drunk. Like I was significantly drunk, like everything was spinning. And I don't know if you know this, but when you smoke crystal meth, it'll immediately take over any inhibition, anything that you're feeling in your body, and even like if you're high on another drug, the meth will take over. Or at least that's my knowledge of it, and that was my experience. So I knew that I needed to get sober immediately because I couldn't go home in the state that I was. So I went to a friend who I knew was, you know, getting high on meth and had meth, and I told him, hey, please let me smoke so that I can sober up and trip out on this. Like, I was literally like drunk. Like, I couldn't even walk straight. And once I took one hit of the drug, it immediately sobered me. So I was immediately sober, and I was able to go home. So I skated home. It was super late, and unfortunately I was not able to go to sleep, and it sucked because like I wanted to go to sleep so bad, and I just was not able to. But one thing that started happening to me that night is I began to just puke. And I was like puking throughout the whole night, and I was puking this like horrible, I know it's disgusting, but this horrible like green substance, which I don't even know to this day what it was. But I mean, maybe it was just as a result of, you know, the amount of alcohol that I consumed. It was just so much. But I was completely sober and completely up and completely high on meth. And yeah, man, I mean, the following day I was just like, I'm never going to touch that again, never going to get drunk that drunk again. It's just a crazy drug. And so I know why so many people get addicted to it, because I was addicted to it. I would say that after trying it the second time, for sure you're hooked. Like there's no getting out of that. Like you're addicted, unless you're really mentally strong and you know just make a decision not to touch it again, or you had a bad experience the first time around trying it. Like everyone who gets to that point of the second try gets addicted for sure. And yeah, I mean, there is a lot of pleasure in this drug, but it is utterly destructive. And I just thank God for what happened in my life that helped get me off of it. And this is what I'm going to get into now. When I was going into my senior year, the summer right before it, I was 17 years old. I ended up going to visit my family in Mexico for 3 weeks with my family members. And I was still on meth by that time, but when I got out to Mexico, I didn't know anyone out there that I could score drugs off of, and to be honest with you, I didn't want to try and meet anyone out there that I could score drugs off of, because, you know, there's just shady people, and, you know, I just didn't know my way around, and so I decided to just back off and try and, you know, clear my head and just take this time to just think about things. And it was about a week into it that I was sober, and I began to sense God really calling me. Like I had this really deep impression and this significant sense that Jesus was trying to get a hold of me. And I began to open up the Bible, and I really sensed God just speaking to me, and I really just felt God's peace and His presence surrounding me during this time. And as I was, sober during those 3 weeks, and just began to contemplate these things and just really think about what I was doing to myself and how I was in sin against God and how my life was displeasing to God. All of those dynamics really helped me to make the decision to not go back to meth. And once I was back at the United States, back to California, I ended up making that decision to never go back to meth. And I did not go back, with the exception to that one night where I got pissed drunk and I had to sober up, and I used that one last time. to sober up. But one thing that I want to close with is a thought. Obviously, I attribute my resolve and my decision to never go back to meth to God's work in my life. If it wasn't for God really speaking to me and enabling me to really think through what I was doing to myself with using this drug, I mean, who knows? I probably would have continued to use, and I probably would have wreaked even more havoc on my life. And so I want to sort of take this moment to make a bridge to a real powerful story that's found in the Bible. There was an instance when Jesus and his disciples were going to a city that was very close to where Jesus was raised, the city or the town called Nazareth. And there was this town called Gennesaret. And Jesus and his disciples went there. And when they got off the boat, they disembarked and got on land, they were met by this individual. And this individual had shackles on his hands. He was completely nude. He was naked. And he was just out of his mind. The Bible says that he was possessed by many demons. And the story on this man who was possessed was that the people of that surrounding region tried to contain him. They tried to put him in shackles. They tried to, just control him, but they could not. And he was so overcome by these demonic entities that he had supernatural strength, and he was able to break out of his chains, these actual shackles. He was able to break out of them, and it said that he would lurk around in the tombs, and he would cut himself and yell and he was just completely consumed and controlled by these demonic entities. And so his life was utterly destroyed by whatever he did to bring this about in his life. And I just want to stop really quick at that point. Using drugs has a history with witchcraft, with the occult, with the demonic, with, casting spells and doing these kinds of magic rituals. And so it's quite possible that this is what opened the door for this individual. Now, I'm not sure that he was doing drugs. Maybe he was sort of dabbling in the occult. But, to have this many demons really possess your life like this is pretty telling, and could indicate the fact that he might have been dabbling in the occult. But the drug use is what I want to point out, though. Drug use is also connected with the demonic. And there has been people who have talked about the fact that, while they're on drugs, they hallucinate more than usual, and they see things. They see evil things. They sense an evil presence that is near them, or that's, haunting them. And I would definitely say that if it's not a hallucination, which it could also potentially be a demonic entity that's getting near to that individual because of their lifestyle. And so, going back to the story, this is the point. When Jesus saw this man, he began to speak to him. And he said, "What is your name?" And the demoniac, the man who was possessed by all these demons, responded. He said, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And Jesus, with a word, told these demons to flee, to leave, and to come out of this individual. And these demonic entities responded and said, please do not send us into the abyss. Don't send us into a place of judgment, in other words. And afterwards, Jesus, conceded. He granted that, and they actually left the man and went into a herd of pigs that were nearby, and the pigs went nuts, and they just jumped off a cliff into the ocean. But immediately after Jesus engaged this individual, this person was instantly delivered. He was instantly healed by the power of Jesus Christ. And these demonic forces had no more say in this man's life. They no longer controlled him. They no longer bound him. They no longer had consumed him, or were able to consume him at all. And the people saw, the people of the town saw and heard about what happened, and they approached Jesus and this man, and they recognized him as being the man that was possessed by these demons, and they realized what Jesus had done in delivering this man and healing him by his power. And the Bible says that this man was now in his right mind, and his desire was to be with Jesus. And it's sad because the people were like, we want you out of here, Jesus. Like, we don't like what you're doing. This is just like too freaky for us. We want you out of here. So they pretty much kicked Jesus out of that region. And Jesus was like, all right, I'm going to, leave. But this man who was healed was begging Jesus to be with him. And you know what Jesus said? He said this: I'm not going to let you come with me. But what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your town, and I want you to tell everyone what God has done for you. And it says in the Bible that immediately he went around the whole town proclaiming how Jesus had set him free. And this is the reality that can materialize in a drug addict's life. God can set you free from the addiction to crystal meth, from the addiction to whatever drug that has consumed your life, that you've given yourself over to. Jesus has the power to break those chains. You see, this demoniac man, even though he was able to break out of physical chains, he was still in bondage. And the spiritual bondage that he was under was broken by the power of Jesus. And this is what he can do in your life. And so I just really want to encourage you to call upon Jesus sincerely if you are in this place of darkness and you find yourself consumed by drugs and completely destroyed by it. He can restore your life. He can make you sound in mind like he did this man who was possessed by all of these demonic forces. And he can restore you, he can heal you, and he can set you free. And I just want to conclude there and hopefully give anyone who is in a hopeless situation hope. There is true, tangible hope in the Lord Jesus Christ. He's real. His power is infinite. And he is more than willing to come and save you out of this situation if you just call upon him in sincerity. Call upon him with your heart, with your soul, in truth and faith, and he will help you. So I just want to say thank you all. Thank you for the love, and I hope you guys are staying safe out there. And just want to say God bless you guys. Take care.